Harbor attack. By mid-1941, the United States had severed all economic relations with Japan and was providing material and financial support to China. Japan had been at war with China since 1937, and the German invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941 ensured that the Soviets were no longer a threat to the Japanese on the Asian mainland. The first Japanese dive bomber appeared over Pearl Harbor at 7:55 a.m. local time on December 7, 1941. In addition, the Pacific Fleet's 3 aircraft carriers were not present at Pearl Harbor. One had been scheduled to return the day before the attack, but it was delayed by bad weather. American opinion immediately shifted to favoring war with Japan, a course that would conclude with Japan's unconditional surrender less than 4 years later. By December 1941, German armies had stalled on the Eastern Front, and it seemed foolhardy for Adolf Hitler to declare war on yet another great power under such circumstances. Nevertheless, Germany declared war on the United States on December 11, 1941. The strike climaxed a decade of worsening relations between the United States and Japan. In the late 1930s, American foreign policy in the Pacific hinged on support for China, and aggression against China by Japan therefore necessarily would bring Japan into conflict with the United States. A clash at the Marco Polo Bridge near Beijing on July 7, 1937, signaled the beginning of open warfare between Japan and the United Front of Chinese Nationalists and the Chinese Communist Party. In response, the United States government extended its first loan to China in 1938. Japanese assets were frozen, and an embargo was declared on shipments to Japan of petroleum and other vital war materials. They saw in the German invasion of the Soviet Union an unrivaled opportunity to pursue a policy of aggression in the Far East without danger of an attack upon their rear by the forces of the Red Army. Nonetheless, negotiations looking to find some kind of understanding between the United States and Japan took place through the autumn of 1941, and not until near the end of November did it become clear that no agreement was possible. Although Japan continued to negotiate with the United States up to the day of the Pearl Harbor attack, the government of Prime Minister Tojo Hideki decided on war. Short, who shared command at Pearl Harbor, were warned of the possibility of war, specifically on October 16th and again on November 24th and 27th. In response to these warnings, the measures taken by the Army and Navy commanders were, as the event proved, far from adequate. Kimmel, despite the fact that his intelligence had not been able to locate substantial elements in the Japanese fleet, especially the first-line ships in carrier divisions 1 and 2, did not expand his reconnaissance activities to the northwest, the logical point for an attack. Neither of these officers suspected that the base at Pearl Harbor would itself be subjected to attack. In the 10 days between the war warning of November 27th and the Japanese attack itself, no additional action was taken by Washington. Early on Sunday morning, December 7, Washington learned that the Japanese ambassadors had been instructed to ask for an interview with the Secretary of State at 1 p.m., 7:30 a.m. Pearl Harbor time. The message took some time to decode, and it was not in the hands of the Chief of Naval Operations until about 10:30. However, Marshall did decide to send a new warning and gave orders to the military command to communicate with the Navy. There was a mix-up in communication, however, and the warning did not reach Hawaii until after the attack had begun. It is important to note that it had not been filed until noon, only an hour before the Japanese planes moved in on the base. About 2.5 hours later, the commander of the destroyer USS Ward sent a message saying that he had attacked, fired upon, and dropped depth charges upon submarine operating in defensive sea area near Pearl Harbor. When he telephoned his lieutenant, he was told to disregard the observation, as a flight of B-17 bombers from the United States was expected at that time.